This is our personal surf inflation vest made for big wave surfing. It's designed to get you to the surface when you go down in heavy conditions. This project started when there were some close calls with our ambassadors, and we really saw the need to increase the level of safety in big surf. The vest is designed to be worn only under a wetsuit with legs. Never wear it without one. Just to be clear, this is not a life jacket or a life vest. It does not take the place of physical training or personal experience in big surf, and using it does not come without risk. Remember, big wave surfing is dangerous. The vest is engineered to improve your odds, but you could be badly injured or even die, including drowning while wearing this vest. The vest holds 4 CO2 canisters, which are designed to give you 4 separate inflations of the entire vest. 2 CO2 canisters are on the front and 2 are on the back. There are 2 pull handles. Each handle connects to 2 canisters, and the dump valve handle is used to deflate the vest. You need to use canisters that contain at least 25 grams of CO2 and have a 3/8 inch thread. You can easily find them at Patagonia Surf stores, bike shops, and marine hardware stores. 25 grams of CO2 is the minimum needed to inflate the bladder, and when you've used them, you need to make sure you replace them with new, unpierced CO2 canisters. This is important because the vest will not inflate with used canisters. Make sure you replace them after every use, and also make sure that you double check all canisters to be absolutely certain they haven't already been used. Make sure the trigger arms are in the down position before you screw the CO2 canisters into the trigger mechanisms. The PSI vest has 4 trigger mechanisms that are activated by the 2 pull cords. To activate all 4 canisters, there's a specific pull sequence. You pull down for your first inflation, which blows the rear canister on that side, inflating the entire vest. Then you deflate the vest by pulling on the dump valve handle. For the second inflation, you pull straight up on the same side, which activates the front canisters. Then deflate using the dump valve pull handle. You then can do the same pull sequence on the opposite side. There's another pull sequence to keep in mind. If you pull straight up on your first inflation, you'll activate both CO2 canisters on that side. This can be helpful during deep hold downs if you feel like you're not ascending fast enough. As you ascend, excess CO2 in the vest will automatically be released. To keep track of which CO2 canisters have been used, feel through the front of your wetsuit. If the trigger arm on that side of your vest is in the up position, it means both canisters on that side have been fired. It's really important to have a mental tally of how many unused canisters you have left in the vest. You never want to use the vest with only 1 full CO2 canister. You always want 2 full CO2 canisters, 1 for primary and 1 for backup.
Again, the PSI vest is meant to be worn only under a wetsuit with legs. Most wetsuits don't seem to accommodate it, but we can modify your suit to work with the vest. When modified, there are 2 snaps on the chest that attach to the pull handles. Then we add a small hole on the shoulder to route the dump valve handle. On the dump valve handle, you'll notice there's a circular Velcro tab with a grommet that attaches to the inside of the wetsuit. This helps to prevent the pull cord from tearing the neoprene. Take the trigger handle for the dump valve and push it through the hole on the shoulder. Attach the Velcro grommet inside to prevent tearing the neoprene. Then pull the handles out of the side of the neck and attach them to the exterior snaps. Now that the wetsuit is on over the vest, let's run through the pull sequence one more time. Pull straight down to inflate the vest. Then release the air from the vest by pulling the dump valve handle. To inflate it again, pull straight up on the same side. Now, feel through the wetsuit that the trigger arm is in the up position, which means both CO2 canisters on that side have been used. Again, it's important to keep a mental tally of how many canisters you have left. Now, do a straight-up pull, which uses both CO2 canisters. Feel through the suit to confirm the trigger arm is up, which indicates both canisters are blown on that side. Before you paddle out, there are a couple of added precautions you can take. You can pre-inflate the vest about 25% to ensure positive buoyancy in the event you are unable to inflate it in the water. You can do this by using a CO2 canister and then letting some of the air out, or you can blow through the dump valve until you reach 25% inflation. If you use a canister, be sure to replace it. Another thing you can do is to pair the vest with static foam, which adds some positive buoyancy. We strongly recommend that you use either pre-inflation or static foam for an additional level of safety.
You need to maintain the PSI vest just like you would your wetsuit, because over time, although all the components are marine grade, saltwater can corrode them. First, you remove all the CO2 canisters, then rinse the entire vest with fresh water. Next, rinse the outside of the bladder and all 4 trigger mechanisms, including the threads, with fresh water. Then you need to rinse the inside of the bladder with fresh water. To do this, open the dump valve by pulling on the dump valve handle. You then add fresh water, move it throughout the inside of the bladder, then drain it out by pulling on the dump valve handle again. Make sure you also rinse the dump valve components with fresh water. After the vest is thoroughly rinsed, allow it to air dry out of the sun and be sure never to use heat to dry the vest. Store your vest in a cool, dry place. Don't leave it in a hot car or hot garage, for example. Be sure to keep your vest away from sharp objects such as surfboard fins, branches, or loose articles in your bag. Before you use the vest, there's a couple things you need to do to make sure it's working properly every time. Use a 9/16" wrench to tighten the nuts that hold the trigger mechanisms. Don't go beyond 25 inch-pounds. The threads are plastic, so don't over-tighten them. It's important to do this because air can leak out if the nuts become loose. Also, you want to check the knots that hold the bladder inside of the shell to make sure they're secure. Next, perform the pre-usage check. This check is extremely important to ensure the vest is working properly. First, load the vest with 4 fresh 25-gram CO2 canisters. Trigger 1 canister, then release with the dump valve. Trigger a second canister and release with the dump valve. Then trigger a third canister and leave the vest inflated. Now trigger a 4th canister. The excess CO2 will be released automatically through the dump valve. Let the inflated vest rest for 12 hours. If it shows any sign of softening or deflation after 12 hours, do not use it. Instead, return it to Patagonia for immediate inspection.
4 important points to always remember. 1. Inflate the vest and let it rest for 12 hours each time before you use it to make sure it hasn't developed a leak. 2. Make sure the trigger arms are in the down position when you screw the canisters in. 3. Always use fresh, unpunctured CO2 canisters and always double-check to make sure they are new and unused before putting on the vest. If someone else installs them for you, double-check the canisters. This is critical. 4. When you're in the water, be sure to routinely check the front trigger arms to keep track of how many canisters you have left. We recommend that when you've used 3 canisters, you go back to the boat or the beach and replace spent canisters with new ones. Never take the vest out or remain on the water when you have just 1 full canister left. You need to have others for backup. And now, a message from our lawyers.
The bladder in the vest has an expected useful life of approximately 2 years. Before using the vest on or after the 2-year anniversary of your purchase, return it to Patagonia for inspection and possible repair or replacement. Do not use the vest on or after the date unless Patagonia has inspected it and returned it to you. Do not perform any repairs on the vest yourself. Instead, return it to Patagonia. The vest should only be worn by the person who originally purchased it. For additional information, go to patagonia.com/PSI vest.